Hey everyone, Reflected here, and I have an epic announcement for today. A brand new DCS Spitfire Mk.IX campaign. Most of my World War II campaigns are set in 1944-45, but I always preferred the period between 1942-43, when the Allies still didn't have air superiority. The Luftwaffe still had most of its veteran pilots, and air battles over Europe were anything but one-sided. I've always been fascinated by early Spitfire 9s heading out to France on circus and rodeo missions, meeting dozens of yellow-nose 109s and 190s flown by the experts of the Luftwaffe. Especially number 611 Squadron, who were really in the thick of it. I don't know if any of you remember, but I released my first campaign ever back in 2008, and it's no surprise that I chose this subject. It was called Biggin Hill Wing, and I made it for the heavily modded version of IL-2 1946. Anyone of you remember it? There were plenty of community mods included, like RAF cheddar and custom skins. It was all about recreating that atmosphere that I read so much about. And it got some really good feedback from the community. Of course, the IL-2 mission editor was way more limited than what we have in DCS today. Therefore, I'm happy to announce that I'm releasing a DCS version of that campaign. You'll fly 14 combat sorties with number 611 Squadron out of Biggin Hill between October 1942 and April 1943. I'm gonna call it Beware, Beware. That is the motto of number 611 Squadron. It will be a completely 100% historical campaign, just like Wolfpack. On the National Archives website, you can check original squadron records and combat reports, so I could recreate the events exactly the way they happened. They tell you precisely who flew that day, what time they took off, what the route was, the altitude, weather, how many enemies were seen and where, and everything. I really enjoy working on such campaigns. On one hand, they are easy. They require no creativity from the mission designer. It's all replaced by extensive research. I didn't have to come up with characters, a variety of missions, targets, random events, weather, and so on to keep the player entertained. Every detail was written down somewhere, and my only job was to find them. On the other hand, such campaigns are very difficult to create because once I had all the information, I had to muster all my mission editor skills to make sure events play out like they did in real life, accounting for the random behavior of the player and the unreliability of the DCS AI. At the end of the day, such campaigns are utterly rewarding. All the data and old typewritten text comes alive in a virtual reality, where us players can relive and experience those events just like those young fighter pilots did 80 years ago. Such campaigns are eye-opening. They destroy all the romantic ideas we entertain in our heads about what it must have been like and force us to face reality. You find the radio silence boring? You feel lonely in that cramped cockpit? You find the missions too long? You struggle managing your fuel and making it back to base with only 3 gallons left? You feel it's challenging to manage your engine properly from a cold start situation so that you don't end up in the channel or a POW camp? You're finding the missions and the routes repetitive? You find some missions too difficult to survive? You find some others too uneventful? Welcome to the reality of an RAF fighter pilot in 1943. I did not come up with any of it. This is how these events happened in real life. If you're interested in seeing action, shooting down dozens of enemy planes and becoming an ace in a few missions, well then it will not be for you. Even though you'll see plenty of action, I guarantee. If, however, you're interested in reenacting historical missions down to the smallest details, more accurately than it's ever been possible in a flight sim, then you're in for a treat. You know, I'll respect you more if you complete the campaign without a single kill but also without ever dying or getting captured, than if you score 20 kills but have to restart a few missions. The former is way more challenging. Some of you may say, hey, but we only have late war 190s and 109s and the later Spitfire 9. Yes, true. And in a 1v1 situation in multiplayer, you may feel the difference. However, these engagements will be very, very far from a 1v1. When 24 Spits bounce 16 190s flying 5,000 feet below, do you really think it matters if it's a 190 A8 or an A4? Sometimes you'll outnumber the enemy, sometimes they'll outnumber you, but in any case, there will be dozens and dozens of aircraft in the sky, and relative performance will matter very little. It's all about situational awareness. If you latch on to a Jerry for more than 10 seconds, you're a dead duck. Just like in Wolfpack, you'll start as number 4, then advance slowly through element lead to section lead. It will feature many historical characters too: Hugo Armstrong, Eric Thomas, Dickie Milne, Al Deer, Sailor Milan, Commandant Dupérier, and Reyak, just to name a few. This campaign will get you as close to flying a Spitfire in 1942-43 as it is currently possible in a flight sim. If you've played my Wolfpack campaign, you know what I mean. Don't worry, only those missions will be featured in the campaign where an engagement happened. I left out the uneventful patrols. In the end, you'll have 14 combat sorties, plus 6 other missions and cutscenes, and even those are based on historical events, not figments of my imagination. To make the experience even more realistic, I had an ally when building this campaign. Authenticate kindly sent me a Spitfire 9 control column, and it makes a massive difference when flying the Spit in DCS. I'll talk about it more in later videos. The good thing is that I'm not waiting for anything to be released. I've got every module I need for this campaign. I used the channel map as it has all the locations. No compromises were needed. I know Ugra is expanding the Normandy map, and maybe Biggin Hill will get on the map one day, but then again, maybe not. And we've had so many issues with Normandy for years, completely unattended, with no reply from the devs. Also, the channel map looks 100 times better in my opinion. More realistic land textures, colors, buildings, everything, so there's that. And no, I'm not making 2 alternate versions for each map. Alternate versions are my pet peeve, so don't even get me started. Oh, and quite conveniently, the last mission of Beware Beware takes place 1 week before the first mission of The Big Show, which, incidentally, ends just when the Epsom campaign begins. This way, if you fly all 3 campaigns in this order, you can have a complete career at the RAF from October 1942 to July 1944, comprising 38 missions. I honestly don't know when it's coming. It's under final testing. Ideally, I wanted to release my Mozzie campaign first, but that is still waiting for a couple of things to be released. This one isn't. So maybe it would make sense to push this one first. I also have some other projects on that table, such as a new Tomcat campaign with Paco. In any case, make sure you subscribe to stay up to date and leave a like or a comment. See ya!